This is the 7th episode of this map editor series and we're getting close to the end. Today we're going to go into the level tab for the first time and we're going to talk about objects and volumes. Without further ado, let's go into objects. What are objects? An object can be a house, a box, a chair, literally like whatever. So in object name filter you can write something like chair and you'll see that a bunch of different chairs pop up. Click any of the chairs that you have there. I'm gonna go with a vanilla one. So let's go ahead and go with the chairwood 1, which is the default one. And when you click it, in selection, it'll say chairwood 1. And if we go down, nothing happens when we left click. What you have to do is hover with your mouse somewhere on the map and press your E key and it'll place the chair out. And when it has placed the chair out, you will have one of the different options that you have here. You can see them in the bottom left. You have translate, which is move, so Q, which basically means you can drag it in whatever direction you want it. If you press W or the rotate button, you'll have some circles around it, which basically corresponds to just rotating it in different directions as well. So you can be quite precise with it if you want to. Then you can click scale or press R and you'll see that you can drag it like this, which will stretch it out however you want it. And you can be a little bit more precise if you drag the circle in the middle, which will make sure that it scales in every direction at the same time to make it look maybe, not as wide and stuff like that. And those are the different settings. We have another one down here, which is by default set to global. And then there's a local one. So basically what global does is that it's always going to have the same axis. So the blue one is always going to be in the same direction. Even if we rotate this now like this, you'll see that it points to that direction, while local is based on the assets or the object's rotation. Hopefully that made sense to you. But to make it a little bit more clear, we'll rotate it a little extra, as you see here. Now if we drag it, the arrows are pointing from the chair, but with global, it's pointing in the same direction no matter what the rotation is. You can find many different objects in here. We can go and press house and we'll select one of these ones here. Let's go ahead and go with house 02. We can press E. As you can see now, we have a house here, which we can drag out and make sure that it looks as good as possible. Remember, if you're going to place something like a house, you ideally want to have it on a flat ground. That is why in the second episode that I mentioned that I want to flatten this area out to make sure that I can place a house out here and make it look good without having a bunch of terrain going in it. We can see that we have some foliage here that can simply be removed by going into the terrain tab and going into foliage, going into paint, and we can just shift and left click them out basically to make it look good. Yeah, that is how you place objects. We can place objects within objects. So if we have this house here, for example, and we want to have a chair in here, we can write chair. We're going to go with chair metal this time. And we press E inside of the house, we'll see that the chair is placed within the house. So we can just go ahead and rotate it however we want it. If you hold down control, it'll snap while rotating so you can be more precise. So I highly recommend holding down control when you rotate objects, so you always get it the way you want it to be. And same with moving, you can also like snap it and stuff like that. But yeah, doing it by freehand is usually how I like doing it. And we can just place the chair like that. If we have an object like a chair, instead of having to like search it up and just pressing E, we can actually select it like this and press Ctrl and C on your keyboard, then Ctrl and V to paste that in. We can actually duplicate it like that. Maybe we want to have like a chair that has fallen over. And that's how you do that. But with the objects, I really don't have time to show you exactly everything. I'm going to add one more, which is a table. Let's go ahead and get that in. Table wood. Go in, press E, and now we have a table in here. I suggest just playing around with this objects tool a lot, just to see what you can build. Because this is really a lot of fun when you figure out how to use it properly. So definitely spend some time on this tab. Just placing objects, rotating them, scaling them, and moving them around. That's the easiest way to get familiar with it. All right, let's get into the volumes tab, which is quite hefty. It has a lot. So in the bottom left, you can ignore that for now. Just focus on the right-hand side. We have Ambience, we have Arena Mode Compactor, Cartography, Deadzone, Effect, Foliage, Horde Purchase, Kill, Landscape Hole, Legacy do not use, so we're going to ignore that. Manual Object Calling, Navmesh Clip, NPC Reward, Oxygen, Player Clip, Safezone, Teleporter Entrance, Teleporter Exit, Underground Whitelist, and Water. I'm not going to go through each and every one of these because you will probably not use them. If you want to learn more about what exactly each of these ones will be, we will leave a website in the description below which basically explains all of them very briefly. If we're going to press Ambience and press E, we get a little square like this. We can make it a little bit bigger by scaling it out like such. So basically what I could do with this is that if a player walks inside of this little trigger box, we can assign a effect ID, which would in this case be an ambience sound. We would type that in. I don't have a good example of one, but it would sound like birds or stuff like that. You can add this into caves, for an example, if you want there to be eerie sound when you walk into a cave, basically. The next one I want to mention is Cartography. If we go ahead and click it and press E and scale it up like such, what this does is basically that whenever a player walks into this trigger box, they actually unlock the GPS and chart. The next one is Deadzone. If you have played survival maps on Unturned, you know that dead zones are areas where you lose radiation or immunity, basically. So now whenever a player would walk into this area or close enough to the tree, they will start losing their immunity because it is radioactive. The next interesting one is effects. If you go ahead and click it and press E like before and select the cube that we have here, this is basically how you can add effects like fire and stuff like that into your world. Let's go and scale this up quite a bit so that we can actually tell very clearly where it is. So when you've selected your cube, in the bottom left, you'll see that you have an effect ID. Here you need to type in an effect ID for example, a waterfall, for fire, and so on. For this one, we're going to go ahead and add the ID 139, and you'll see that fire appears like that. Super cool. So now if we leave it as is and we walk in the world, there's actually going to be fire here. If we add another ID like 130, you'll see that it briefly appears just like that. And that is basically how you add different effects into the world. You would need an effect ID, whether it's custom or vanilla, then you would type it in here. So let's leave it on fire for now and just change the other settings. Emission rate, if we set this to 100, you'll see that there's a lot of fire there. If we set it to 1000, there is a lot of fire here. You would not want to walk through this. So you can make some really cool effects with this. But be careful if you add something like fire and you add too many zeros, it is definitely going to start lagging quite a lot. So definitely be careful with this. We can move this into the house if we want to like that. We can increase the emission rate to 500. And now from a distance, you could kind of tell that it is on fire, just like that. So hopefully you can see the potential that this has and stuff like that. I'm not going to be showing you how to make any custom ones. I don't have those skills yet, but you can definitely do some cool stuff with this, especially if you are like a VFX artist. The next one I want to show is kill. So basically this is if you want to have a kill zone. If you're making like a puzzle map, for an example, and you would want people to die if they walk through this window, we could just select it, press E, highlight this volume, scale it up a bit, just move it into the window here. And basically what would happen now is that if I as a player would run in here and jump through the window or walk through the door into this box, it means that I would die. If you only want to kill zombies here, for an example, you can uncheck kill players and kill animals. And now whenever a zombie would walk into this, that means that they would die. Then we have a Navmesh Clip. So we have a Navmesh placed out like this, basically where the zombies could walk. If I go ahead and press Navmesh Clip and press E, select it, and scale it in one direction like this, as an example, then zombies would not be able to walk through it. Wherever this is placed on the nav mesh, the zombies would have to walk around it. This can help if you want zombies to walk in a specific path inside of the nav mesh. The next one is oxygen, which is self-explanatory in a way. We're gonna have this box here for oxygen, and in the bottom left we have a button that is breathable. And if you uncheck it, that means that it's not breathable. So if players would walk into this box now, they would start losing oxygen and eventually die. So this is what you would add on top of like a high hill if you want people to not be able to go up there without losing oxygen. The next one is called player clip. And basically what this means is that players can't walk through it. You can see a little check mark here that says block player. This can be really good if you're making a map like I am, which is a story-driven map, and we want people to walk in specific directions, basically. So if players would walk here now through this, or attempt to walk through this, they would not be able to do so. So this is good if you want to block off certain areas. And the next one, Safezone. Basically, if you place this out like this, and players would walk into this area, you can make it a really large area, of course, as big as you want it. It would mean that players can't build and they can't shoot inside of this area. It is a safe zone. And then the next one, we have water. We can place it out like this. And if we scale it up and we go in here, you can actually tell that we are underwater as long as we're in this. So this can be used for making pools and stuff like that. Really cool. And to finish this video off, we have two that I jumped over, which is teleporters. Teleporters can be really good. So let's say that if a player would be to walk inside of this house, we could make them teleport into the other house. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So first thing first, we need to select teleporter entrance here, and we're going to press E. And then we have a box like this. Let's go ahead and highlight it. Let's go ahead and make it a little bigger so it fits the door frame quite well, like such. And while we have it selected, we have a pair ID here. Let's go ahead and write something like 8 as an example. Now, whenever players attempt to walk through this door, they will teleport to the teleporter exit with a pair ID of 8. For this to work, now that we set this pair ID to 8, we need to set up a teleporter exit as well. So let's go ahead and place it over here by this door. Press E, select it, scale it up, and we're going to rotate it so that the player faces inward. We can tell by the arrow here. And we're going to just move it like that. We're going to set the ID to 8 as well. So now that these both have the ID of 8, you'll see the blue line appear here between them. That means that if you go in here, you will actually teleport here. That is it for all of the objects and volumes. Let's go ahead and check it out in game. We spawned a little bit further away because we were there in our last episode and the zombies are still up, those rascals. Go ahead and verify that everything works as it should, at least for those that we left in. If we go in here, we should start taking radiation damage and it should say that we're in the dead zone, which it does. Great. And here we have the fire. Ooh, I'm in fire. Great. So that means that that works and shows in game. Now we're going to test out the teleporter, which should take us to the house that we placed out earlier. So if we just walk in through this door, we get teleported to this other house with the chair and table and, well, the house that we placed. I do hope you enjoyed, and in the next video we're going to be talking about player spawns and quickly about visibility. And that will be the final video of the map editor series, or at least for the tools. Thank you so much for watching.